All right, Prop the Mic, presented by Props.cash. Here we are on a beautiful Thursday. It's November 2nd, 2023. I'm feeling very at home. It's like back to NBA, a nice 4-game slate. We got a week's worth of data we can go through now. I'm feeling like very much at ease. How are you feeling, Dave?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have some real data under our belt, although like I would feel even more at home in about another week's time.
Yes.
Because some teams have only played like 3 or 4 games, but we are like almost hitting that sweet spot where we can really take advantage of all the analytical power we have here and start to give out some great picks. But I think the season's been going great so far. I think we're up over I think close to 5 units already, and I can't wait to give out some more picks for tonight's games.
Yeah, we got a bunch that I like here, so excited to go through these games.
Yeah, let's do it. So we got 4 NBA games tonight, and then we're also don't leave the show early. We're gonna hit up the NFL game, Thursday Night Football at the end too. Tom was trying to get out of it. He said this is just a terrible game and it's not worth covering on the pod. But I said, you know what, the people want to hear about Thursday Night Football, so we're covering it at the end, and we got some good picks for that.
Yeah, got to give the people what they want.
Got to give the people what they want. All right, so let's dive into the first of the NBA games tonight. We've got the Raptors at the Sixers. This one's on NBA TV. I actually thought the games tonight were on TNT, but they're not.
Yeah, I saw that. There's no TNT games. They start up next week with the tournament games, I think, for some reason. I don't know why they took this week.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. But anyway, they are nationally televised if you or televised if you have NBA TV. And then obviously all 4 games you can watch if you have League Pass, which I highly recommend. But anyway, back to game 1. We got Raptors at the Sixers. Sixers are minus 8.5 at home. Total is 215.5. I would like to call this maybe the new look Sixers, right? Got rid of Harden, but he wasn't playing anyway. And they got rid of PJ Tucker, who was in the starting lineup. So there's some implication of that in this discussion. These 2 teams played a couple of days ago, so we have a data point there. What do you like here?
All right, let's start on the Toronto side. A couple matchups I'm looking at here. Forwards, scoring by forwards against Philly, nice spot so that we could look at Scottie Barnes. Blocks by forwards against Philly, also nice. So again, Scottie Barnes. And then point guard assists is another category here that was popping out in the model. So I think we can look at Mr. Dennis Schroder. Let's start with Scottie here. I like his points. It's 18.5 points, minus 125. He had 24 in that game against Philly, which was actually curiously also on a back-to-back. It's weird to play the same team within a week, both times on a back-to-back. He's gone over this in 4 straight games. So I like the 18.5 points. I also like his block. For him to have 1 block is minus 164, so kind of pricey. But he did have 2 blocks in that game against Philly last week. And going back to last season, he has had a block in 8 of 12 games on a back-to-back. So there's your points. Nice, consistent 4 games in a row going over. And if you click on the blocks, you can see he had a nice game against Philly with the what's that looking at? That is
2 blocks. Yeah, this is this season. Yeah, he had 2 blocks 3 games ago, and he's had a block every single game. So
really nice. So but at minus 164, not so attractive to bet here. So I thought, I wouldn't mind bringing the points down a little bit. I don't know, playing the same team twice in a row and on a back-to-back. So if you bring the points to 15 and put it with 1 block, which you just saw he's done in every single game, you can get even money plus 100 on DK. I thought that might be a nice pivot here to get the block in and bring the points down a hair.
Yeah, I think that's a good play. I think 15 is even low. I mean, I think he's good for at least 18 tonight.
I like the I like the 18.5 straight up. I was just looking for something else here if you want to incorporate the block somehow. But yeah, you could go higher than 15. I think you're right.
Look at these minutes he's playing too. That's crazy.
Yeah,
36 plus minutes in each of the first 4 games, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Not unusual for these Raptors, though. Nick Nurse also would play them always big minutes. So that's all I got on Scottie Barnes. And then I got 1 play on Dennis Schroder here. He's been crushing it with the assists. His line's 7.5 assists and plus money, plus 112. He's cleared. Obviously, they've seen 4 straight games, 3 times with double-digit assists. He had 10 in that game against Philly last week. I think he's established himself as the point guard on the team, playing really well, coming off that great FIBA run that he went on. I think this is a nice spot for him. You liking his assists here too?
Yeah, it was actually the first play I wrote down today. But it's weird because there really is no historical data when you look back to last year, like when he played. I know he was kind of in and out of the lineup. And where was he? LA last year. But yeah, I just it's not a lot of good support if you look at last year. But this is a completely different situation.
Yeah, sorry.
And I think, like you said, he's getting the minutes and he's got the weapons around him to score. So I like it. I mean, again, I'm a little cautious just because of the back to 2 games in the last week or so, but against Philly. But it's not like he hit 8 in that game. He cleared this by a good margin. So I think at plus 110, plus 112, that's a really good value.
Yeah, nice.
Let's do it.
All right. You got anything on Toronto?
No, let's go over to the Philly side. Who do you like there?
All right. Point guard scoring against Toronto. One place that's popping out here. So I think we could go to Maxey over 23.5 points. It's minus 135. He's gone over in 3 straight games. Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. Averaging over 30 points a game. He had 34. It's his highest scoring output of the season so far in that game against Toronto. He played for what it's worth, played 1 game on 3 days rest last season, had 27 in that game. So extra rest. Team he seems to be excelling against. You like Maxey?
I'm torn because I think the statistics are for Toronto are heavily kind of weighted by Maxey's prior performance. You know what I mean? Yep. Just because it's early in the season. So I was looking at playing over on Maxey, but then because he put up 34 points. But then I looked at what all the other point guards in the league have done against Toronto, and it isn't looking good, right? I mean, Willard put up 15, and Scoot, well, I don't know if he's on the same level, but 11 points, and Mike Conley 11 points. So Maxey's actually the only guy who's actually cleared his line of all the point guards out there. So I was almost going to propose going under on Maxey, so we might have a head here. Yeah. But Maxey's just special, man, and
he's different. The only guy on there that is Dame, and they're he didn't have a great game, but I don't know. I don't see why Maxey couldn't replicate this again. I don't know, but I guess we're split here. So
yeah, I personally am not going to play an under on Maxey just because I think he's too electric and he's like the I mean, Embiid is the center of the offense, but Maxey is a close second right now. So I think with Harden out, it's almost his team. So so I support you. I would probably go half a unit on the over if I was going to play this at all.
Okay. Smart.
All right. What else?
I got a few on Joel here. Were you keying in on anything for Joel?
Yeah, I like Joel's assists tonight.
Me too, baby.
All right, so give me what you got there. Other than the fact that he's hitting all 3 games and had 8 against Toronto.
Oh, that's all I had.
I was hoping for some like deep analysis that you had, but
no. I mean, obviously, you could go down there. It was one of the stat categories at his position that was popping out in our model. Obviously, just like you said, part of that is also probably reflective of the fact that there's not a ton of data, and he had 8 assists in that game against Toronto, so he's dragging those averages up himself. But I don't see why that should prevent us from playing him. It's obviously, they don't have a ton of size to put on him, and he's a pretty good playmaker for a center. This is something we've played in the past, and I'm ready to go to it again. 5.5 assists. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, our analysis is largely based on positional matchups. And when you get to the big position, there really aren't a lot of bigs that fall into Embiid's category, especially when it comes to passing, right? Maybe Jokic is like another one that, obviously Jokic is even at a higher level, but there aren't a lot of great passing bigs in the league. So Embiid's kind of in a category of his own, but I was trying to pull up the stats from last year. We presented this on the pod a couple times last year, but I couldn't find it because Harden is no longer on the team, so he doesn't show up in the props like cash screen anymore. But there was definitely like a significant lift on Embiid's assists when Harden did not play. And now you've got a team with no Harden at all. So this is not. I don't think this is a fluke. I think a couple days from now, this line's going to be up to 6.5, 7.5 assists. It could be.
It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy for a guy who scores 30 points, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, they run the offense through him, right? They generally start the play with a pick at the top of the key. And then from there it gets thrown into Embiid's hands, and then he kicks it out to the perimeter or dumps it off, right? So he touches the ball all the time. I think it's a great play. All right. Anything else on Embiid?
Yeah, so I think his rebounds also nice here. Another category that was popping out here. Didn't get there in the first game against Toronto with 9, but his line's 10.5. He cleared in 2 of 3 games on 3 days rest last season. 2 of his last 3 against Toronto. And the one I liked, I know he didn't get there in the last game, but DeAndre Ayton had 23 rebounds against Toronto a couple days ago.
Wow.
So I think that low rebounding output was kind of an anomaly for Embiid here. And if Ayton can get 23 rebounds against Toronto, I don't see any reason why Joel can't get 11.
Yeah, and Precious Achiuwa is a game time decision as well. So if he doesn't play, that's only less depth with Embiid. So
Big time.
Yeah, 23 rebounds. Vus had 12. Gobert had 13. So you got lots of good data points. I think it's good. I think it's a good buy low spot for Embiid rebounds. Maybe a triple double on Embiid tonight.
I
Right?
like
I mean, he's getting
where your head's at.
He's getting close on the assists. He'll probably get 10 rebounds. Definitely getting the points. I'm going to sprinkle a little something on a triple double.
Very nice. One I also noticed because I like the rebounds, the assists. I'm also on his blocks. Blocks by bigs against Toronto, also a nice spot here. His line's 1.5 though. His last 2 games against Toronto, he did clear. He had 6 in that last game.
Wow.
And then 2 in that previous game against Toronto. You can put 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 block together and get plus 160. I thought that was a nice way to play Embiid here. Yeah.
All right, cool. Lots of good stuff for Joel. One other player I just wanted to discuss is Kelly Oubre Jr. Apparently. So 15.5 points. He's cleared this in his first 2 games in Philly and fell short in the game against Portland. His minutes were down against Portland, right? He played maybe 25, 26 minutes, where he's playing closer to 30 minutes in the first 2 games of the season. But he's the one who is going to be impacted the most by this Harden trade because he moved from the 6-man up to the starting lineup. So PJ Tucker is out of the starting lineup, being part of that trade, and now Oubre is in the starting lineup. So I feel like the line is not properly adjusting for that. It is not a great matchup against Toronto. Yeah, not the best matchup, but he did score 18 points when they just played. And I don't know. I just feel like he's going to benefit a lot from some extra run and being part of the starting crew. What do you think?
I like the logic there. He's not a guy I love. I find him to be very up and down and consistent. So not a guy I like. But everything you just said does make a lot of sense. And it's early in the season still. And I think this could be a nice spot for him to get back in the green there.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't feeling so confident of it, and then I clicked his 22-23 season.
Yeah.
I mean, don't forget this guy was a monster scorer, right? 15.5 points. He cleared that in 78% of games. Even if you just drop it down to 15, he had that in 82% of games. So much different environment where he had the ball in his hand a lot more, not as much competition, but still the point is this guy can score. And if he gets more playing time, I think 16 points will be a fairly regular thing for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. That line, once we see a couple games without, I mean, all these games have been out without Harden, but I think him becoming a starter here, I think you're right. That line will start to probably creep up. So let's get it while it's depressed here.
Depressed, not like us. We're not depressed. All right, moving on. We got the Pistons at the Pelicans. Pelicans are -7.5. Total is 217.5. Pistons are doing good. I think they might have more wins already this year than they had last year. They're 2-3. The Pelicans are 3-1 on the season, if I'm correct. They're like they have to be the worst 3-1 team in the league. Like they just right, like they should be so good, but I don't know. There's something about that team. The chemistry is not right. Ingram is out tonight, I believe. What do you like in this game?
All right, a couple of things for a couple spots for point guards against Detroit. So we can look at CJ. Rebounds by point guards against Detroit, looking very nice. His line is 4.5 rebounds and it's plus 125 on FanDuel. His last 2 games, 11 rebounds and 6 rebounds.
Wow.
Yeah. He cleared 4.5 rebounds in 6 of 9 games on a back-to-back last season. Twice had 10 rebounds on a back-to-back last season. So I think this is a sneaky little spot. Yeah, look at that. I think this is a sneaky little spot for CJ here. 4.5 rebounds at plus 125. Really nice.
It's nice. Yeah, just for the audience, I know a lot of you use props like cash. Some people were asking where the days rest. It's over here under the split section, and this will show you basically give you the option to filter for what the current situation is. So 0 days rest, and this is what Tom's talking about. Really good numbers there. Love that.
Yeah. All right, and then the only other one I had for this game was blocks by forwards against Detroit is a nice spot. So I like Herb Jones here to have a block, -120. He's had a block in 4 straight games. You want to go to this season?
Yeah, every game this season.
Yeah. And if you look at what he did on back-to-backs last season, his last 5 of 8 on a back-to-back. So something he gets after it a little defensively on the back-to-backs there. Look at that one with 3 against Memphis. So, I like Herb Jones to have a block.
Yeah, he's more traditionally known as a steals guy, right? If you look, he had over the last season and change, he's had a steal in 70% of the games, right? This year, only in 2 of the 4 games. But I also had his block. But But I also, I know it's weird, right? But I paired that with the steal as well, and you put those two together, 1 block, 1 steal, you get that for plus 140.
Okay.
The reason why I like steals here is Detroit is leading the league in opponent steals, right? Basically meaning turnovers that lead to steals with 10.6 per game. There are just some monster numbers. DeAndre Ayton had 5 steals.
Wow.
So that just means like bad entry passes, right? Because he's not like stealing the ball from somebody while they're dribbling. They're just bad passes. Chet had 2 steals. Drummond had 3 steals. So I was seeing a theme, like a lot of the big men are getting steals.
Yeah.
And then when they played Charlotte, every player on Charlotte had a steal in the game against Detroit, except for Mark Williams. So it busted my big man steals thing, but every player on Charlotte had a steal. So this team is a bit of a mess in terms of handling the ball. They're scoring a decent amount, so I think that's helping them win. But I somebody's going to get a steal. Multiple players are going to get steals on New Orleans. It's just who. I would say your best bet for steals are probably Herb Jones, and I think McCollum is probably a good option as well. So you can either put Herb 1 steal and 1 block, or you can maybe do McCollum 1 steal and Herb 1 steal, something like that. All right.
I'm so glad that you brought this up because I didn't mention it because I didn't find individual plays that I liked, but point guard steals. I mean, and obviously you just explained why these are popping off of the model here. Point guard steals against Detroit was really good. So CJ is up there. The only problem he's at 1.5, not 1. So I probably liked it a little better at 1. But if you're going to parlay with something, also the bigs like you mentioned, which would be Zion, you could probably get some value there on a Zion steal. Not known for his defense, but look, I mean, he's had 3 already this season. So I think he's also a sneaky one if you wanted to put together a Pelicans steals parlay or something.
Yeah, I was even thinking Joval. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure how to play this one, but I'm probably going to spread the wealth and put a little something on Herb, Zion, CJ, and maybe even Joval. So,
all right.
All right. Last thing, just in the same conversation, most of the steals are coming because Cade Cunningham is turning the ball over a lot, right?
Wow.
Look at that. So this line, actually, when I wrote it down earlier, was minus 160 for 3.5 turnovers. It's actually bumped up to, which you can still get at Caesars for minus 163. It's bumped up to 4.5 on most of the other books. Still probably a good bet at 4.5 plus money. He's had 5 plus turnovers in each of the last 4 games. So I don't see him fixing this anytime soon, right? Because he's scoring, he's getting a lot of assists. So this is kind of just a cost of doing business. But if they want to win more games this season, he's going to have to get this in control.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice one. Nice.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah. All right, let's move quickly over to the later games. We got the Magic at the Jazz. Jazz are minus 1.5 in the game, and the total is 221.5. What do you like here?
All right. I finally get to do a pick on my boy Franz here. Forward scoring against Utah is a great spot here. You got 2 guys. You got Banchero and Wagner. Wagner currently classified as forwards for the Magic. Typically, or last year, Franz was categorized as a wing, but he hasn't actually played any minutes at shooting guard this season. He's split his time between power forward and small forward, so that's why he's in that forward designation. If that seems weird calling him a forward, that's why. But over 18.5 points, minus 115 on FanDuel. Look at his last 2 games against Utah.
Whoa.
Yes. Very nice. Nice matchup. Team's pretty similar to what it was last year. I think this is a spot that works out nicely for him. I think he cleared this in his first 2 games of the season and hasn't since. So I think he's due for a little. I had it at 18.5.
Yeah, you can still get it at 18.5.
Yeah. So I think he's due for a nice little bounce back spot against a team that he's performed well against historically.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if you mentioned this, but Triple J had 19 against the Jazz. Aaron Gordon had 21, and Kevin Durant had 26. So
there you go.
I wouldn't say that Franz is any different than Gordon in terms of scoring capabilities. He's probably a better scorer than Gordon. So and probably similar with Triple J. So those are more physical guys, but whose game actually line up probably a little bit better with Paolo Banchero. So I was curious what your thoughts were on Banchero tonight, given that he's the other forward on this team.
I didn't look at him as much because I like the locations on the floor that Wagner does his damage from, a little bit different from Banchero, and it was kind of matching up to where Utah seemed like we could kind of take advantage of Utah's defense. But I don't know. What do you got on Banchero?
Yeah, I wanted to play his points, but I can't. Like I've said in the past, I don't want to be the guy who finds the game that breaks the trend, right? Because that could be a very expensive habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he just seems to be taking a different approach this year in terms of his offense. His scoring is down. His assists are pretty good, though. We mentioned this on a couple pods, 3.5 assists, which is also a decent category for forwards against the Jazz. I think they're top third in the league in terms of giving up assists to opposing forwards. So I put these two guys together in a little parlay. I liked Banchero for 3.5 assists, and I liked Wagner for 2 threes. You can get that for plus 145.
Nice. That. You got some correlation there a little bit.
Yeah, ideally, Banchero throws both of the passes to Wagner. Go. But if you look, Wagner's had 2 threes in every game, and Banchero's had 4 assists in every game. And again, like we said on the show the other day, even if you look back to last season, Wagner has attempted, we can go down to the 3-point attempts, has attempted 7 3-pointers or more in every game this season. Right? So if we filter to that, and we bring the prop down to 2, which is what I'm saying, he's got an 83% hit rate when he attempts 7 threes.
Nice.
So I think it's a really high probability, especially against a Jazz team that is giving up, I forgot the number, but it was a top 3-point attempts in the league, top 3-point attempts in the league. So
click on his Utah split right now while you have the 3-pointers on there. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think those are both great plays here. Plus 145 is a no-brainer. If you don't like the threes, you could do Wagner, 15 points with Banchero, 4 assists, and that gives you plus 120. Also a good play.
Nice. I like that.
But I'm going with the threes.
Okay.
All right. What do you like on the Jazz side?
All right. On the Jazz side, rebounds by bigs against Orlando is a nice spot. So we can go back to, or we can, for the first time this season, go to Walker Kessler, over 7.5 rebounds, minus 108 on FanDuel. Got that there.
Finding it. There we go. Whoa, look at that. Against Orlando.
Look at him against Orlando. 10-9. He cleared last season in 9 of 12 games on a back-to-back. They're on a back-to-back here. So he picks up the rebounding. Look at that when he's on back-to-back. So I think this is a nice spot. 8 rebounds seems very manageable for Kessler.
Why is his rebounding down this year, though?
John Collins taking some away?
Yeah, maybe.
Markkanen's been a beast on the board. That's probably the answer.
This was one of your plays on the Props Like Cash blog yesterday. I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Like, why wouldn't we just go back to Markkanen at 8.5?
You're probably right.
Rebounds, right? Like, he's been a hell of a lot more consistent than Kessler. Kessler is kind of feast or famine. He's like 4 rebounds or like 12. I feel like Markkanen might be the safer choice. This is reminding me a lot of the debate I had in my head the other day about, do I play Mitchell Robinson or do I play Julius Randle? And this Markkanen is the Randle of the team here. He's the guy who's out there on the floor more and probably a lot more consistent in rebounding. So I'm going with Markkanen 8.5 rebounds. Did I convince you, or are you going to stick with Kessler?
I think you made a convincing argument. I think there's something to be said for consistency for sure. Yeah, I mean that's not so bad. And Markkanen is similar to Julius in that, like, they're classified as a forward, but they do play like he's played 5% of his minutes at center. So he's a guy who in the right rotations, he maybe could be classified as a big. So I think that might be the way to go. I think you might have convinced me.
Do you know how tall Lauri Markkanen is?
He's 7 foot.
He's 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
Right. This guy is not really a forward. He's a center who is able to shoot, and that's why he plays forward. So the dude is a giant. He's probably an inch shorter than Walker Kessler. Like I think he's a good play. So we'll put them both on the board, but I'm going with Markkanen. I'm stealing your play from yesterday. All right. Anything else in this game?
Yeah, one other, and this one's sneaky. It's rebounds as well, but it's for Jordan Clarkson. So combo guards, rebounds against Orlando. Great spot. It's plus money, 3.5 rebounds.
Wow.
Look at that. Now click on Orlando.
Whoa.
12 rebounds against Orlando last season. Click on him on a back-to-back as well.
Okay. From last year. Back. Yeah, pretty good. 64% hit rate.
Oh, and do it back-to-backs at home.
Huh?
Now we're talking. Now look at that, 9 rebounds against Philly there. And he's also 3 for 3 at home this season. One of the only teams, them in Denver, with real significant home court advantages nowadays in the NBA. So I think there is a little bit to that. I don't go too much into home away splits, but for those teams, I do sometimes. So I think this is a sneaky little spot to get 4 little rebounds.
Yeah. What makes playing in Utah advantageous?
The altitude.
The altitude.
I'm just saying it's for a home court advantage. They're used to the altitude. The other guys aren't. The away team.
Okay.
So
all right. Sounds good. All right, let's move on. We got the final game of the night. Spurs at the Suns. Suns are minus 8.5. Total is 226. This is the only respectable point total of the night. Everything else is pretty low. Suns are going to be without Beal again, and it looks like Devin Booker might play. We'll see. It'd be odd to rush him back against the Spurs, but this is a revenge spot. The Spurs just stole a game away from the Suns a couple nights ago. So you saw our play out on X from earlier this morning. We really like the Suns to win the first quarter by 2.5 points plus. I think that's a great spot, minus 115. Take a read of that right up for all the analysis on that. But that's our first play on this one. Let's kick it to you for a little matchup discussion.
All right. Bigs are in a good spot here against the Spurs, both in terms of scoring and assisting. So I looked at a couple plays on Mr. Kevin Durant here. I like the points and the assists. It's 33.5. It was 32.5 the previous game, so he did clear. Now at 33.5, I don't like it as much. He does get to 33. If you just go and look at last year, you'll see he gets to 33 quite a few. Look how many times he gets to 33.
Got a 52% hit rate at 34 and a 65% hit rate when you go to 32.5. So
so I prefer it at 32. So for that reason, I think it's probably still a good play at 33.5. But if you wanted to, that's minus 110 on DK. You could do the points and assists as a parlay. You could do 25 points and 5 assists as minus 105. He's had, if you actually look his last 2 games, he's had the exact same output: 26 points and 7 assists the last 2 games. If you felt like the assists would stay up, with Booker coming back here, 25 and 7 is plus 260. So I think I'd lean that way than the points plus assists. I don't know. Any feel on this? Any thoughts?
I don't know. I'm just looking at the first game of the season. He had 18 points and 3 assists. That was the only game that Booker played in. If we look, just looking over the last season and a half, what we can do is we can look at the games with Booker, right? And Durant is averaging 27.3 points with Booker. And then if we look without, let's just look at the last 15 games or something, without 29.7. So it's about 2-point lift, 2.5 point lift when Booker doesn't play.
What about
his
assists?
Yeah, good question. If we go to assists, without Booker, the last 15 games, we are at 5.1. And if you look at the assists with Booker, 4.6. So the assists go up about 10% when Booker's out. So
when Booker's out, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So scoring goes up about 10%, assists go up about 10%. So not a huge, you would think it'd be more, right? Given how much of the offense Booker is, but yeah, I think Durant still gets his shots in regardless of who's out there with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. I'd be cautious. I wouldn't play huge on this just given the uncertainty around Booker.
Yeah, let's see another game with Booker back. We've only seen one so far. It's probably a good little wait and see approach a bit.
Definitely. All right, who else? Anybody else on the Suns?
One other real quick, blocks by wings against the Spurs is something that was popping out. So you can get Josh Okogie to have a block at plus 140. He had 2 against the Spurs on that Halloween game. Some other wings also. Norm Powell had 1. Grayson Allen had 1. Graham Williams is more like a forward, but Okogie could also kind of be in that categorization. He had 1 as well. So I think it's not a super strong play, but just another little sneaky one here. It seems like there's going to be, I'm going to talk about a few more blocks when we get to the Spurs side in a sec.
You're loving blocks this year, huh?
I am.
They're exciting, but also painful to watch. All right, cool. I have nobody on the Suns side. You ready to move to Spurs?
Yep.
Okay. What do you like there?
All right. So let's go to assists by forwards against Phoenix. Very nice. So you can look at Jeremy Sochan, over 3.5 assists, minus 146 on FanDuel. He's kind of, I know Coach Pop came out and said, he's going to be the point guard for this team. So I don't know if that's actually happening, but he's definitely handling the ball more, I think, than he did last year. I mean, you can see by these assists, they're up 3 of his first 4 games. He went over, he had 5 in that game against Phoenix on Halloween. So I think this is a bit of a sneaky spot here too on Sochan.
Yeah, this kind of feels like this line will be up at 4.5 pretty soon. And if you look, I was looking at him as well. He played 30 minutes last game, so he's typically like a 25-minute kind of guy. He dealt with a bunch of injuries last year, I believe, but even this season he's only averaging 27 minutes so far. But 30 minutes, in that previous game against Phoenix is pretty encouraging. So, barring a blowout where he doesn't play the fourth, I think I like this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice low number. Yeah, I think it's this one's pretty good. All right. The rest are defensive stuff. I like steals and blocks. Combo guard steals against Phoenix is nice. So Devin Vassell is that combo guard as of right now. It was wing last season, but the data is still early. So that stuff will flesh itself out. But anyway, for him to have 2 steals is plus 140. He had 3 steals against Phoenix that previous game. So and he also had 2 in that first game of the season. So I think this is a nice spot. He had success just recently against Phoenix, so I think he can do it again and get 2 steals.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I think Phoenix was actually opponent steals per game. So if you look at the top teams, I mentioned Portland and Detroit are the tied for number 1 at 10.6 steals allowed by the opponent, and the third team in the league is Phoenix, actually at 10.3. So Phoenix is coughing the ball up quite a bit as well. Which makes sense. They don't really have a point guard.
Yeah, good point.
Good point.
All right. And then the other were just bigs, blocks by bigs against Phoenix. Also nice. So I think we could look at Wemby and also Zach Collins. I think everyone would initially be drawn to Wemby. So I think Collins could be in a sneaky spot. His line's only half a block, and he had 3 in that game against Phoenix. Whereas Wembanyama did have 4 in the game. His line's 1.5. I think they're probably both good. I think at only needing to get 1 block, I think at very similar odds. They're both like minus 155, minus 160. I think Collins could be the sneaky one here, though I don't want to knock Wemby. I think him to get 2 blocks in this game is also kind of no problem. What do you think?
Yeah. Wemby's playing 27 minutes a game, and Collins is playing 31. So from that perspective, I think Collins actually is a better play here. Right? He's getting more time on the floor, and he needs half the blocks. Right? So I kind of like that better. I also feel like they're treating Wemby a little bit with kid gloves. So if this game ends up being a blowout, Wemby will be off the floor. My overall advice on the Spurs picks is I would choose, of all the stuff that we gave out, choose the one that's your favorite and play 1. I wouldn't play more than 1 unit on the Spurs tonight because I think this game could very well be a 20 to 30 point blowout. Like I just think
the revenge.
Phoenix,
yeah.
I just think Phoenix, especially if Booker's out there, they just have way too much firepower.
If Booker's there, it'll be tough.
Yeah. So I would be cautious about putting 3-4 units on the Spurs. I'd find the best pick that we just said and play that 1.
That seems very prudent.
very, very logical, right?
Yes. Yeah.
In that same vein, I think I love those picks, but again, I like Zach Collins, probably the best out of all those blocks. I also found one other turnover pick in this game. Wemby has also been a bit of a disaster. Look at those numbers: 5 turnovers, 4 turnovers, 5 turnovers, 5 turnovers in only 28 minutes or something of playing time. So you could even pair Wemby with Cade Cunningham, both at 3.5 turnovers. That's probably going to give you plus money. Both of them are just like a turnover funnel this year. So
good call. I don't look at those turnover props too often, but the two you called out seem I'm on board. They look pretty good.
Cool. All right, we're good with NBA.
I think we're good with NBA. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna run through NFL real quick because quite honestly, the game tonight is rough. It's this will end up being like a 60-point game that comes down to triple overtime, because I don't even know if they do triple overtime, but yeah, this is really shaping up to be a typical Thursday night football game. Titans are 3-4. They're actually 0-3 on the road. Steelers are 4-3. They are 2-2 at home. Steelers are minus 2.5 in this game. Total is a sad 36.5 points. Only other note, you've been dumping on Tannehill all season so far and saying he shouldn't even be in the league. Well, it looks like he's probably out of the league because Will Levis, who is a second-round pick in the draft, number 33, the guy who was out of Kentucky, infamously waiting to be drafted after he thought he was going to be a top 10 pick. He's starting tonight after playing in the previous game against Atlanta and actually had a really good game. So what do you like matchup-wise in this one?
Isn't he the mayonnaise guy?
What?
Isn't he the guy that puts mayonnaise in his coffee or something like that? No?
Really?
I'm pretty sure it was. There's a bunch of stories coming out about that around draft time. So I'm a big fan of mayonnaise, so I might get behind Will Levis just because of that. But no.
I'm going to have to fact check that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You don't have to fact check the fact that I'm a big fan of mayonnaise.
No, I already knew that.
All right. Not a lot, like you said, popping out in this game. The one thing that our model is spitting out here is over. The one thing the target would be overs in the Tennessee running game. And if you look on props.cash, I see Spears' line has gone up. I think it was 18.5 or 19.5 earlier. He seems to get there quite a bit at 19.5 or even at 20.5. I mean, he's got 5 of 7 games. It's not that's a pretty good hit rate. You have a nice matchup here because of the strong run block win rate for the Titans against the bad run stop win rate for the Steelers. So I think that's nice. Did you look at Henry at all? That would be the other one.
Yeah, I think both of these guys are great plays today. So again, remember on the last football pod we did, actually it was the Sunday pod, we talked about how backup quarterbacks or new quarterbacks into the league, what game script are they going to execute? They're going to run the ball a lot. So let's start with Henry, then we'll come back to Spears.
Okay.
Look at Henry's rushing attempts, right? So he had some big rushing attempts. Hold on, let's just look at this year. A couple big rushing attempt games early in the season, but 2 games prior to last week, he only had 13 and 12 attempts, mostly probably because Tennessee was playing behind. But last week, 22 rushing attempts. And I think a lot of that is just because of, you got a brand new quarterback, don't want him throwing the ball too much. So I think his rushing attempts is a pretty good play here at 17.5. He's a big, a big rush threat every game too, though. So probably his rushing yards at 72.5 is probably the even better play here. He's done that in 3 of the last 4 games, and he almost gets to 100, almost, in each of those. So I had actually at 71.5 rushing yards for Henry, and I'd probably sprinkle a little bit on 100 as well.
I will say, I'm looking at it right now. Pittsburgh actually on the season has allowed the second most average rush attempts to running backs. ATN just at 24, McCaffrey 22, Damian Pierce 24. So I think that is nice. I might lean. You said you were leaning the yards.
Yeah, I think so. Just because, I mean, look at that. I mean, he could just bust for a 63-yarder like he did 2 weeks ago, and you've got 80% of the yards you need for the play. Yeah. So I always like his long rush potential, but game script wise, the rush attempts probably make more sense. So 17.5 rush attempts, and I like 71.5 rush yards. Going back to Spears, I do. What concerns me a little bit about Spears is just the number of rush attempts that he had last couple weeks. Right, he was kind of on the rise. Had gone up to 7, and then in the last 2 weeks he had 4 and 3. So 3 rush attempts is not a lot to get 20 yards or whatever his line was. Yeah. But if you look, he's got big rush potential too. Look at his longest rush.
Ooh.
9.5. He's cleared that in all but one game. The game that he didn't clear it against was against Cleveland. So it seems like if he gets 5 attempts, he's gonna bust for a 10-yarder. So with Spears, I'm going with the 9.5 longest rush.
You sold me. I'm on both your plays tonight. I like the Henry attempts, and I like this longest rush for Spears here. You very nicely done.
I'm feeling uncomfortable now that you're so behind me. I kind of was hoping you to pose me a little bit here. All right, let me throw out one more on the receiving side. So again, we've talked about this quite a bit. When you got an inexperienced quarterback, even though Levis was bombing down the field to Hopkins last week. If you look, Hopkins had 128 receiving yards, but he only had 4 receptions on 6 targets. So I said, all right, who else was this guy throwing the ball to? And the answer was his tight end, Okonkwo. Okonkwo had 4 receptions as well on 6 targets as well. So pretty much got the same volume. So I like him for his receptions, right? 2.5 receptions, minus 120. He's done that even with Tannehill there. He did that in 4 straight games. Then he had only 2 against pretty good Baltimore defense, and then 4 last week. So I think, again, they'll be dumping off to this guy. I think 3 receptions is a pretty good play.
I really like it. Over the last 4 weeks, Pittsburgh has allowed the 3rd most targets to opposing tight ends. I think that's a nice spot there. Good find.
Yeah, I mean, Evan Ingram just had 10 catches.
That's what's dragging that up.
Tyler Higbee didn't have a very big game, but then Mark Andrews had 6 receptions. So Schultz 3, Njoku 4, and Kittle 3. So a lot of good tight ends getting 3+ catches. So I think that's also a good one.
Yeah, good one. Good find.
Any other So with all that said, all the focus is on the Titans, but I actually think the Steelers are going to win this game,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. What do you like on the Steelers? Anything over there?
I didn't find anything that I liked. No.
All right, going to make me do all the work today. I see. All right, this is a fun one. I like Connor Heyward, who I have no idea who this guy is. I just found out about him today. Apparently, Freiermuth is on the IR, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to reach out to our guy Proptology about this one just to confirm. But
Yeah.
receiving yards is 25.5, so I kind of like the under on that. And I also like his longest reception under at 12.5. He's gotten to 12 in 2 games and
So
9.
close.
So close. But yeah, so I think that was pretty nice. This got me thinking about just longest receptions in general. I know you're not a huge fan of the longest reception.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at the guys who are being offered the longest receptions, and I found the guys who have the lowest hit rates this week. So you got Allen Robinson at 10.5. He's only hit that in 1 of 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
Burks at 16.5 has only hit that in 1 of 4 games. Heyward, we just talked about. I said 0 of 4. The 4 games that he actually played in, he hasn't hit in any. And even Okonkwo, who we just talked about as a great target, he's only hit his longest reception of 14.5 in 1 of 7 games. So actually going to experiment a little bit with like going under on the longest receptions for guys that have like under a 25% hit rate and see how that works this week too.
Nice. That's cool. I smell a round robin. That's something I like to put in a little.
You can't put them together. They won't let you do it. It stinks. So
the longest. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, but if they're all from different games,
different games you could do it.
Different games you could. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Maybe we'll cook something up for the Sunday pod tomorrow.
Ooh, I like that. I like where your head's at. All right,
cool.
All right. Well, that was a long pod. We got a lot of picks out. Only 4 NBA games, but a ton of picks and a few for the Thursday night football. So we'll get the pod up. We'll get a few of these picks posted to X, and I'm ready to make some money tonight. You too?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Nice work.